Today we're at the Circle Cinema. It's October 13th, 2007 in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're pleased to have Mr. Kenneth Thomas, captain in the Army Air Force and attached to the 80th Fighter Group. Mr. Thomas, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's my privilege.
Just tell us your story, if you would.
Well, as a country boy waiting for my age to catch up with the need, and at age 19 I enlisted, took an examination to enlist in the Army Air Corps. I had just learned that the examination to get passed was acceptable in lieu of the formerly required 2 years college. Well, I passed it and was accepted in September of that year and sworn into the regular Air Force, and was called to active training duty then, January 1 of 43. I was sent to usual military training schools, primary, basic, and then advanced, and at which time then they had to select us for either fighters or bombers, and unfortunately I got selected for fighters, and even more fortunately I got selected for the Thunderbolt P-47. So I felt like I had all the luck at the time, which I did. And the Thunderbolt training was very straightforward. We had some time in Richmond, Virginia, some more time in Dover, Delaware, and then we were hustled overseas, missing 2 shipments, both of which were to be to Britain, and the 3rd shipment we got on then took us to the CBI theater, Burma, where we were allied with the British and the Chinese. And although I was in fighters, none of my work was against enemy aircraft. We were against the enemy on the ground. We were doing tactical close support work. And I had 102 combat missions doing that, all of which were most gratifying, some of which were some disappointment. Some of them left some true memories. Perhaps the most memorable one was this one. It was my 74th and 5th. We got the early morning flight at that little bitty old spider web down below me there, which was a footbridge, probably built by no more than 2 Japanese with ropes and split bamboo, and was being used to get ammunition to a gun pit whose position we did not know at the time. So our assignment was to get the footbridge. Without bomb sights, that was quite an assignment. So we got the first early morning flight at 4, dropping 8 bombs one at a time, and missed all 8 of them. Naturally, we were taking a path between the 2 canyon walls, which was the apparently only safe path we could use. And that gave us a target then less than 3 foot wide down there. And it was not a surprise to us that we got 8 misses out of 8 tries. But the day wore on, and at 3:30 in the afternoon, my flight got a call for another mission. We didn't know where it was, so we got airborne. And when we got airborne, we realized we were going to the same place. And when I got down there, that bridge looked just like it did at the first mission. No one had touched it. It was still there. It was hanging at both ends. And there was 15 miles of convoy winding up around the hairpin bends of the canyon walls, waiting to cross the bridge, because this footbridge was being used to get ammunition to a gun pit, whose position we didn't know. But the gun pit was blocking the transportation bridge across the Salween River. Well, at that time in the afternoon, realizing we'd be the last flight and realizing that 15 miles of convoy wouldn't stand a chance in the dark, I decided it's time we got pretty serious about the matter, and I had a formula that I used nothing more than keeping my eye on the target every second when I first started concentrating on it, keeping it clear when I rolled into the target, and then maintaining my eye contact with it, I could nearly always hit it. Mind over matter? I don't know, but it worked. So I took that same path, still flying between the canyon walls, and my first bomb made this hole right here. The bridge, being made out of rope and bamboo slats, had no resistance to a bomb, and it just went right through it like it would a laugh. So I realized, well, I can hit the bridge, but hitting the bridge is not going to get it. So I must get at one of the anchors. Well, we were dropping our bombs one at a time, so I had circling in thought pattern to go through while the other three dropped their second bomb. And I finally decided I'd go after one of the end anchors. So I called for permission to change the pattern. Well, the flight leader was almost indignant. Change it to what? I said, well, I've got to get one of the anchors. I can hit it. I know that. You can see the hole. But in order to destroy it, I've got to get one of the anchors. And how in the hell do you plan to do that? I said, well, I have to scoot down one of those canyon walls. Which one? I said, I've already made that decision. I've got the better one in mind. And then his last words, and how do you plan to get out of there? I said, well, a hard right down canyon is about my only choice, and I think I can make it. And he agreed that if I wished to try, I was more than welcome, but be careful because we couldn't spare the airplane.
Not you, the airplane.
That's right. So I made the try, and I saw a terrific explosion where my bomb hit right at the anchor, right exactly where I was aiming. Then I saw that old lath and plaster bridge go flopping against the opposite wall. So I knew I had gotten it. And, we thought that was pretty great because the convoy could now move. We could see them moving. And the flight leader thought I needed a rest. So he scheduled me for 30 days leave as quick as I lit that afternoon. And on 30 days leave, I met the OSS officer that had called in this particular mission. And how that came about was he said, introduced himself, I'm Captain so-and-so from Detachment 101. I said, hey, we worked with you guys all the time. Do you remember working with the 80 Fighter Group now and then? Oh, yeah, all the time. In fact, a couple of days ago, some damn idiot in a white nose scooted down the canyon wall and put a bomb right in the gun pit for me. I said, well, let's hear a little bit about that gun pit. Right at the end of this bitty old footbridge. I said, shake hands, the damned idiot, sir. That was me. So it got fixed in my mind if I needed anything more than the experience. And
but that had to have been awful gratifying for you. I mean, you saved a lot of lives.
It was extremely gratifying, and the greatest gratification was being able to hit the anchor of that 30-inch wide bridge. That was put me on cloud nine right there. And when I learned from him then that I got the gun pit as well as the bridge, that was the total frosting on the cake then. So it got pretty well fixed in my mind, and it was probably 45 years later I had an artist put this together for me, and he worked on it the better part of a year, getting the angle of the plane right, getting the color of the terrain right, getting the bridge in proper proportion, and when he got it all done, he had captured a second in time.
And that explosion there, was that the gun pit?
That was the gun pit, okay. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I was awfully proud of the picture. I was awfully proud of the mission. And people often ask me, how could I remember anything that far back? And I have to ask, How could you forget? The remainder of my missions were without any particular memories, other than they came up to 3 a day, and we were kept those airplane engines mighty warm, going back and forth. And most of the time, not on this particular mission, but most of the time we'd have a two-way radio conversation, just like CB radio, with the people on the ground, directing us to the exact point they wanted us to hit, or to strafe, or whatever. And that was very important, because in those jungles, the two opposing forces would often be facing each other at less than 30 yards and unable to see the other at all from where they were. But the OSS with binoculars up on the hill could see them, and he could spot them and tell us, this is the enemy, and get them, and when you do it, come over the heads of our guys, so that when your bombs bounce, they'll go the other way. And that was the kind of close support we were offering. And we had our whole 80th Fighter Group, which is a fight of 4 flights of 4 planes, 16 airplanes, did that for the better part of the full year I was in India. So it was a pretty busy war. It was a fairly lengthy war. And like with all wars, we moved a few yards at a time.
And when were you, surely by doing this you accumulated a lot of points to be able to come home?
Yes.
Shortly after?
Yes, I had more points than I needed to come home, and I finally came home. I didn't come home until the war was totally over, because as far as I was concerned, since I hadn't faced a single enemy plane, I had not yet been to war. And we had been regrouped to form an invasion, support an invasion force into the islands of Japan. So I was working hard, training hard, and looking forward to getting into the war. And we didn't have to, fortunately. I say fortunately because I've had access to reports that MacArthur dug up for us that told us how the Japanese were prepared for us, what they had waiting for us. And their aircraft production that we thought we had shut down in 1943, in home assembly and so forth, they assembled over 1,000 Zeeks during the month of August of 1944. There was probably more airplanes than we made in the same month. It's unreal, you know. And we didn't know those were waiting for us, so I had the good fortune of not having to make that invasion. I suppose my experience probably parallels that of a few thousand others, only just on different real estate. But personally, I wouldn't have taken any amount of money for it. I am not sure I'd want to do it again. I loved the flying, but I didn't care for the jungles or the jungle rot or the leeches or the heat or the humidity. But the rest of the work was fine. I loved it, dearly loved it, and enjoyed most of the moments of it.